Welcome everyone, and thank you all for joining this special event with our partner Invest Barbados, where we'll be talking about why families and high net worth individuals should consider investing in Barbados as a place to live and work and spend time in. Firstly, I hope you and your loved ones are keeping well during what has and continues to be a challenging year for so many people. I'm Juliet Scott-Croxford, CEO at Worth Media and your moderator for today, and I'm delighted to be joined by special guests, Sir Paul Altman, Managing Director of Altman Real Estate, Giles Carmichael, Partner of Chancery Chambers, and Nancy Vailakis, Senior Advisor at Socium Fund Services. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Julia. Good morning.
Good morning. Our intention at Worth is to create conversations that help inspire and inform our community, many of whom are investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders across the world who want to leave a positive impact on the world and to help create a more inclusive and equal economy and society for the benefit of everyone. And we call that Worth Beyond Wealth. So we hope you enjoy this session. Destinations across the globe have been impacted by the recent crisis, and the responses and resilience of destinations and cities have varied significantly. Apart from its strong human capital, its modern infrastructure, its vibrant culture, its sophisticated business environment, and excellent quality of life, Barbados is recognized as a reputable, transparent, and well-regulated jurisdiction for international business. So it's an attractive option for high net worth individuals and families looking for a second home location or a base from which to launch a global business from. So we're delighted to bring together some prominent voices from Barbados and further afield. So Paul Altman, Managing Director of Altman Real Estate, Giles Carmichael, Partner at Chancery Chambers, and Nancy Vailakis, Senior Advisor at Socium Fund Services, dialing here from New York to share their perspectives on why Barbados is a good place to invest. Before we get started, I also wanted to say a big thank you to our partner for this series, Invest Barbados, and to Ken Campbell, Counsel General Mackie Holder, Leslie Gittins, and the Barbados Marketing Tourism team. We saw a unique synergy between our brands, and both Worth and Invest Barbados have a focus on building the spirit of community. Barbados through their traditional core way of Bayesian life, and Worth across our various communities of women, finance and investing, and families. So we're excited to highlight the unique opportunities that Barbados has to offer beyond their beautiful beaches today. A few housekeeping rules before we get started. You will all be in here on mute as attendees. Thanks so much for joining us. You can use the chat function. I can already see some chat going on. Please do set it to all panelists and attendees, and please do share any comments that you have or any questions that you have for the speakers, and we'll make time to go to those questions throughout the conversation. We can either unmute you so you can ask the speaker question directly, or I can weave it into the conversation as we go. So let's get started. Why high net worth individuals and families should consider investing in Barbados. Firstly, a personal check-in with you all, and I'd love to hear briefly about your background and your relationship as it pertains to Barbados as a destination. Paul, let's start with you.
Thank you for having me on the panel, and I'm happy to share my side of Barbados with everyone who's tuned in. Of course, I'm born in Barbados, so I have no difficulty in understanding how this island operates, and I've been in the business that I'm in for over 40 years, so I would say seasoned in what I do, and we have catered mainly to high net worth people. So I think it is fitting that I can give my experiences in the business that I'm in, but also dealing at the end that we are really focused on this morning. Now, I know that the discussion this morning is going to be sort of varied and really tuned between the financial and investment side and the legal side of what we are talking about, as well as the opportunity to enjoy the lifestyle here. And I'm happy to contribute my few thoughts on that.
Thank you, Paul. And if you would you just share a little bit about Altman Real Estate and what role you play in Barbados?
Okay, well, there are a number of companies, and many of the companies at the top end have associations with international firms. We have had these connections with Christie's, with Sotheby's. We work mainly with Savills at this time, but we also have connections in New York with Brown Harris Stevens. That's a well-known company. They were with Christie's at one time as well. And we, from a commercial point of view, we work with JLL, which is a well-known brand, so that our connections go beyond Barbados. We also work in the islands around here, so that we're familiar with the Caribbean islands, not just with Barbados. And I think that explains. So I've started the business and been involved in several ends. So as I say, we do commercial. We do residential sales. We do short-term rentals, holiday rentals. We do long-term rentals. And under the program that I believe will be part of this discussion this morning, we will discuss the welcome stamp that the government has sort of offered and is doing very well, extremely well, where people can come and spend 12 months without being facing any issues of tax and that type of thing. So we're getting a wonderful flow of people coming in who, as I go on, will describe we are converting into owners.
Thank you, Paul. And we'll come to the Welcome Stamp Initiative later on in the conversation. And you were born and raised around Mullins Beach, I think you said, didn't you? Because I got engaged there, and I know you said.
Yeah, well, my family home was on Mullins Beach. I spent my formative years, I should say, on that beach, and so I know it quite well.
It's a beautiful beach, and that held special memories for me as well.
Right.
Giles, I want to come to you next. How are you? How are you doing personally? How's the sort of last 8 months been for you? And also, please explain briefly a bit about your background too.
Good morning, Juliet. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here on the panel. I'm well, thanks. The last 8 months has been quite interesting for me because I actually got married in February, and
congratulations.
I actually spent my time between New York and Barbados, and I got back to New York on March 10th. And you can imagine what happened soon after that. I spent my time in New York during the beginning of the pandemic, and I've been able to now travel to Barbados on the 29th of August, and I've been here since then. So I'm well. I'm happy to be in Barbados. Life here is very well and good. And about myself, I'm a partner here at Chancery Chambers. We are a full-service commercial law firm. Obviously, we assist high net worth individuals in the purchase of real estate here in Barbados, as well as any of their commercial needs with regards to business formation or tax advice that they may require.
And it's a family business, is that right, Giles?
Family business. My father founded this practice over 30 years ago. We're now a partnership. And actually, my father started the business quite a few years ago, and he and Sir Paul were actually, I call them pioneers, because they would also travel the world to promote Barbados back in the 90s.
Thank you, Giles. It's great to have you on here. And Nancy, hi. I know you're up in Hudson. A warm welcome to you. How's the last eight months been for you? And obviously being a New Yorker, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective and background, both on sort of your day-to-day work, but also linking with Barbados as well.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Julia. Pleasure to be here. Yes, in March, my husband and I came up to our weekend home in Hudson, New York in mid-March. And by the end of that particular weekend, it seemed pretty clear that returning to New York wasn't feasible or perhaps desirable. Things were ramping up on the COVID front. And so I'm pleased to have a home in the very cosmopolitan town of Hudson, New York, very artsy. And of course, it's nice to be close to nature and to more easily be able to socially distance at this time. My background is mostly working in investor relations and business development for hedge funds and private equity funds in New York, a number of which you've probably heard of. And I'm currently a senior advisor for a service provider that serves such funds called Socium Fund Services. And I'm a big fan of Barbados. It's one of my favorite destinations. When I saw that a welcome stamp program was put in place, I was certainly tempted to leave my comfortable Hudson Valley home and drag my husband down there again. He also loves it. The island is very cosmopolitan, of course, very mellow, very beautiful. Goes without saying, you know, the pictures that anyone can find on the web are a testament to that. I'm a huge fan of the island and have certainly felt tempted to go there over the course of 2020, which has been a challenging year for all. And indeed, I think Mia Motley, the PM of Barbados, put in place a very smart program, given that international tourism is down. I mean, the percentages vary quite a bit, depending on what source you look at, but either way you slice it, you know, people are flying less, people are going to the Caribbean less frequently. This welcome stamp program that enables professionals like me with an income of 50,000 USD or more with health insurance, and of course, a positive, or rather a negative COVID test, can go to Barbados for a year and not pay income tax. It's wonderful. It's a safe destination, a family-friendly destination. So I look forward to delving into, you know, why I love it.
Thank you, Nancy, and it's great to have you on here as well. I want to start just by sort of talking about navigating the pandemic, because destinations have dealt with it very differently, and it strikes me that Barbados has handled it very well. Giles, let's start with you. What opportunities have you seen open up for the island since COVID-19 hit? And I know we've talked about the welcome stamp, so it'd be great if you could just talk a bit about that, but anything else that you've seen that's come up since then?
Well, specifically, the Prime Minister and the government of Barbados has launched this initiative, which is the welcome stamp. They have legislated now that persons may come to Barbados and live here up to 12 months and work remotely here. And what that has allowed is allowed persons to basically relocate for 12 months here without any negative income tax consequences to them. Basically, if your office is in New York City, you can come to Barbados, you can work from here, and it's almost as if you were in New York City. You know, your tax position remains the same, and you're able to work and live here comfortably for 12 months. And I think it's been a great initiative. I have met many people here in Barbados currently that are currently have taken advantage of this initiative and are enjoying it.
Yeah, I can imagine they're enjoying it. And in terms of things like infrastructure, so a lot of people want to know, you know, how's the infrastructure, the Wi-Fi, all of that kind of in place pre-COVID, or did any of that have to change in introducing some of these new initiatives?
Well, since Barbados, we are also an international financial center, and whether it be a high level of tourism and infrastructure was here already. So with regards to internet and Wi-Fi, all of these things were already in place. And so for persons that came here on the welcome stamp, you know, they brought their laptops, they brought whatever they required for their office, but you know, you turn it on and you're good to work. I know an actual hedge fund investor that's here currently in the island, and he came down with his family and children and 2 dogs actually, and he is working. It's the same time zone, and he's working like he was in his home.
Nice. I just wanted to introduce everyone again and just say a very warm welcome to those that have just joined us. We're joined by Paul Altman, Giles Carmichael, and Nancy Balaikis, and we're talking about why families and high net worth individuals should consider Barbados as an investment opportunity. Paul, I want to touch on some of the properties that you have been involved with, and you've been involved with some of the very high-end properties on the island, and we talked about Sugar Hill and Apes Hill and many others, and Sandy Lane. How has the island stepped up, do you think, to become an ideal place for families and high net worth individuals to consider, whether it's a second home or launching a business in?
Yeah, thanks, Juliet. I would answer that by saying that this is nothing new to us. We didn't need to step up. We are there already. What we had to do is to make some small changes, and to tweak what we have here. And I will just, if I can just step back to what Giles was talking about, people coming here, and your question on people having access to high-speed internet. I'll get back to the changes after, but. Yeah. But I wanted to mention in particular, what we did is we started producing a weekly newsletter to send out to our database of clients. And in that newsletter, we always had a quote from the type of person that we are talking about, that high net worth person who came to Barbados as a safe haven to sort of avoid any of the issues related to the pandemic. So one of the quotes came from someone who is a very senior business executive connected to a New York firm. And he was based in New York, but also part-time in London. And his comment in our newsletter was that he found it easier to operate out of Barbados because of the connectivity that we have here, and because of the time zone that fitted in better with New York than operating out of London. And that person happens to have a home here as well. Now, in terms of how we have tweaked the product here, as you mentioned, there are some well-known names that everyone coming to Barbados knows. Sandy Lane. And then they know Royal Westmoreland, they know Sugar Hill. And of course, Apes Hill has been there, but is undergoing a complete redevelopment now. In fact, I drove around there yesterday because one of my passions is golf. And of course, Sandy Lane has golf, Westmoreland has golf, and all by globally known named architects. And at Apes Hill, which is under redevelopment, the product is being tweaked slightly because the sense is that the people that are coming now want to have home offices. So that's one of the things that's being built into the new designs. Larger kitchens, people want to entertain at home more. Although Barbados has some of the finest restaurants you would want to go to anywhere. So, we are making slight changes, but I don't think that we had to do too much because, as I said, we are used to this type of high-end clientele. So we are just, and the other thing is that we are now in October. And one of the comments that I made in my office this morning was that we are seeing more activity in October this year than we have seen in October, almost any October during my career.
Wow.
October is usually a dead month. So the people that are coming here now, who are coming for the longer stays, they don't have, and if you're coming for a longer stay, you don't have to come in December when everyone comes. You come when it suits you to come. So October is quite different to the norm. And you're talking, and Jaws talked about people coming out of New York. Well, this morning we were talking to people from Colorado. Well, how many people come from Colorado to Barbados in October? Or how many people come from LA to Barbados? We've had a couple of clients, of course, now that they're flying private, so they fly Barbados, LA. And that's not a route that is normally feeding into Barbados. So again, there's some things that we're seeing that are quite different, but very exciting.
Yeah, and just in terms of, because Giles, you spend your time from New York to Barbados. The commercial flights are now operating out of Miami and out of New York, right?
That's correct.
And internationally as well.
And internationally,
yeah,
we have flights flying directly from New York and from Miami on JetBlue and American Airlines. We have flights coming from Toronto. We have commercial flights coming from London. And as Sir Paul says, we also have quite a few private aircraft that are also flying into the island.
Great, thank you. Nancy, I want to ask you, as a wealth advisor, you know, and I guess advising your clients, how should people think about choosing to relocate to the Caribbean from a financial viewpoint?
Well, certainly there are many benefits to families if they relocate to Barbados. For one thing, there's no capital gains tax, which is quite an exceptional perk. And the Welcome Stamp program is certainly geared toward enticing digital nomads who might find, say, the Bathsheba area of the island to be quite compelling. It's a great surfers haven and, you know, dare I say, a bit of a hipster haven. It's a little cheaper on the east side, on the Atlantic side. For wealthy families, I would say the Northwest tends to be very compelling. It's very developed and cosmopolitan. Indeed, the property that I hope to visit next is the Ross Ferry property in the Sandy Lane area, which is owned by my favorite hotelier, Kit Kemp of Ferndale Hotels fame. She's the owner of the Whitby Hotel in New York in the 50s on the west side, the Crosby Street Hotel, the Soho Hotel. These are favorite hotels of mine. When I'm in London, I always stay at the Soho to the extent, you know, it's available, frankly. And her shabby chic style, I think, actually fits the Bajan life very well. You know, it's a very kind of classic, artsy, elegant cosmopolitan island, and so, you know, her choice of Ross Ferry and Sandy Lane certainly matches. And indeed, Paul, you said that Andrew Lloyd Webber lives next door to Kit Kemp in the Sandy Lane area. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, he's a neighbor. He's again, these are people that don't spend all year here, but they own their homes here, and they spend mostly during the winter they're here. I think they'll come more often now, though, because of the safety of Barbados, the fact that they can come here and move around much freer than they would in New York or London at this time.
Well, I think it's the safety, but you've also, I mean, your cases of COVID, you've managed to really keep a very low level as well, which I think for a lot of people is appealing, particularly going, if you're living in a city and you're going into the winter. So I think that's a huge attraction as well.
Yeah, it's safety in terms of extremely low COVID count, you know, the lowest I've heard of, frankly, because it's an island, it's easier to protect, right? It's not as though people can come across the border via land, but it's also safe. I felt that it was the safest island I've ever traveled to in the Caribbean. I've been to a good number of them. So in terms of interpersonal safety, if you go out on a Friday night, what's the, you know, do you have to put your antenna up because of a certain vibe? You know, I really didn't find that to be the case. And indeed, that's why it's one of my favorite islands to visit. Along with the fact that the population is extremely well educated. You know, this is an elegant people and the food is great. I could never have brought my husband of Greek descent to an island with bad food without hearing innumerable complaints about it. And I didn't in this case. So, you know, many cosmopolitan and kind of, you know, beach shack options and everything in between. So I think that those things make it a compelling destination at this time.
And there's a couple of comments here. Sally Cox said she can attest to what, Paul, you were saying about the ease of working from Barbados, and she's been there on and off for 8 years. And Emily said, I imagine working from home in Barbados would be a great boost for mental health as well, which I think is a great point, which is you have the infrastructure, but also from a wellness perspective, it will be hugely positive. Giles and Nancy, I want to just, you touched on the tax benefits for Americans looking to potentially move there or to launch a business from Barbados. What about those looking for a second home? Are there any, I know you talked about capital gains, are there any other tax benefits from the perspective of launching a business or buying a home?
Well, from buying a home perspective, like we said earlier, there are no capital gains. So if you were to buy a home now and sell it in the future for at an appreciated value, you would not have to pay capital gains tax here in Barbados. A lot of our clients that are purchasing very expensive homes generally tend to purchase it through a structure. So those homes would generally be purchased via, it could be another entity that's in the BVI, which is then registered as an external company here in Barbados. And sometimes when the sale occurs, the person buying the home will purchase it through a share purchase. That tends to assist with currently not paying property transfer tax and stamp duty.
Thank you. Paul, what does the real estate market look like in Barbados right now?
Very interesting. You know, we are not known to downplay anything that we deal with in this business, but I would assure you that we are very excited by what we are seeing. You know, we have someone from a very well-known tech company that has come to stay here, who we met, and just as an example, they came here and they rented a home with their family, and they're enjoying their and working from here. They had to fly out for one day to LA, and they came back last week. And the minute they came back from their trip to LA, they said, you know, we are all of a sudden have made a decision that we have to have a place here. So that, you know, that's the type of thing that we see happening. And these are people that came here to work remotely for a year on this 12-month stamp. But they have warmed up so much to the lifestyle of working from Barbados and the efficiency, the ease of doing that they have said, but why don't we, you know, spend more time there? And you know, it has opened up a completely new world. So it is almost as if this would not have happened without COVID, because these people would not have been looking for a place to work from remotely that has this quality of lifestyle that Barbados has. But without even building this into our thought process, I'm sure the Prime Minister, who is a lot more clever than I am, she's one of the brightest people that I know, she may have thought that one through, but it still catches me by surprise every time I meet these people that have come here to work remotely, and hear how much they're enjoying themselves and how they have thought through the process to the extent that they now want to buy and own a place here. It's interesting.
And Nancy touched on some of the different areas, like the northwest, and also Bathsheba, which is much wilder, but I think beautiful. And I've surfed very badly there. Where are you seeing, where are you seeing people really want to focus their sort of the real estate market around? Are you seeing any changes across the island?
Yes. There is a difference now that I'm picking up, a different sense of where people want to locate. Now, let me touch on something that Nancy started, which is this East Coast and Bathsheba, where all my life people just went there to get away from the rush of the other side of the island. And I say rush advisedly in inverted commas. There's never a rush, but to go over to the East Coast was getting away. You went there to just be sort of to take in the breeze, which is the northeast trade winds that come across the island, and to have those wild open spaces. And it's a national park. And yet one of our clients, who I would say has built a magnificent home on the West Coast, also built something quite unique on the East Coast that is in the rental pool. So that the East Coast is quietly becoming not only a place where you go for the shabby chic, rustic type of places to go and stay at, but that you have some of these signature homes. And sort of linking some of these statements together, one of the places there, which is the Eco Lodge on the East Coast, is that shabby chic, good, excellent food place to go. It only has, I think, 12 rooms, but it's owned by someone from New York who moved here with their family and who goes back and works in the financial services in New York and travels New York, Barbados, while the family is here. So, and operates this business, which is quite special. And in fact, I have to add, is building a home at Apes Hill now as well. So these are people that are slowly taking root, and but the West Coast traditionally has been the place. And although the person that I mentioned before, who just flew back from LA and wants to buy a place, has specifically said they want to buy this place on the South Coast. So that all of a sudden, whether it's the West or the East or the South, it's all becoming one, because the people are upgrading their properties on all around the island, and the full signature of what used to be just a West Coast focused type of lifestyle is creeping all around the island.
That's great to hear. And Giles, you mentioned something about the BVI companies in real estate structures. And Sally commented that most of her firms work with Barbados law firms, relate to real property transactions, and there's definitely synergies between the two jurisdictions for many years, and that Barbados is an ideal location for work and family life. Are you seeing, I guess, since COVID and since the welcome stamp's been implemented, how has that impacted your business on the legal side?
On the legal side, it's been interesting, sort of, with regards to real estate. It's been interesting, sort of what Sir Paul has stated. We have had a few transactions where persons have actually come to Barbados and they were here to escape London or New York or other cities across North America or Europe, and decided that they actually really liked it here and purchased properties here during the pandemic. So we had transactions that were happening during that time. Also from a legal perspective, because so many international and multinational firms use Barbados in their structures for international business. If there are large transactions happening around the world, they're also happening right here in Barbados. And so we were very busy still during this time. And like everyone, we adapted to this new world of, some at points of time working remotely, where our office was closed for a period of time, but then coming back to work and adjusting to this new world of Zoom calls and Teams calls, and just connecting with our clients so that they know that we are here and available for them to satisfy their legal needs.
That sounds great. And there is a comment from Connie just talking about the welcome stamp, and it's not only available to those who are already employed by companies non-resident to Barbados, but also university students whose classes are now being conducted remotely, who have successfully taken up the stamp and are there, which I think is a great point. And also companies that want part of their teams to work remotely can also apply. So that's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Connie. There's some great questions which I want to come to. Let's go to Edward Savonnik, if you're there. Edward, can we unmute you?
I'm unmuted now.
Hi, how are you, Edward?
Very good. I just wanted to find out if you were to send someone or advise someone to work remotely for a year in Barbados, what are the repercussions tax-wise, and is there reciprocity with the United States, the UK, and Canada?
Who wants to? Thank you, Edward. Who wants to take that?
I
Giles?
can take that point.
Yeah.
So with regards to the welcome stamp, we passed legislation called the Remote Employment Act. And so there are no tax ramifications for persons being sent here. And what I mean by that is that persons that are working remotely will be considered residents for immigration purposes, but not for tax purposes. So what that means is that there will be no withholding tax here in Barbados on their income, and they would just basically be considered still a resident of the US or Canada or the UK under their current employment agreement. What that also means is that because that company or their company is not undertaking a business in Barbados, they also will not have to register here as an external company, and that will also not create a permanent establishment. So some companies I know have worried about that, and we have given advice to that effect.
Thank you, Edward. Great question. I want to go to Dwayne Burke next. If Dwayne is there, he has a question on the digital nomad. Hi, Dwayne. We may have lost Dwayne. So his question was to you, Paul. Are you seeing the digital nomad or the business professional looking to relocate under the Welcome Stamp program?
Very much so. In fact, you know, we in Barbados are sort of set up to welcome that type of person. So digital nomads, and I was chatting with my daughter, one of my daughters in London this morning, and we were talking about digital nomads, and we are set up here because, you know, we have Regis, which is an international name for people to come and establish a company almost immediately. They just can walk in and they have a space, and they have shared facilities to start work right away. But that has now gone to the next level, where we have just opened a place called Suit Free, like this kind of thing, but free. I shouldn't really be having this on. So this is shared spaces where people go on a day, and they can work remotely. And that same setup has opened another area in the city, and they've opened one on the West Coast, and that is the type of, and these things have sprung up overnight to cater to these business people that not only want to work from their homes, which are indeed very comfortable, but want to have some interaction with other people who are signature in the same area of type of reasoning and business style. So we have everything here to cater to them, and so, you know, I would answer that easily and say that digital nomads are very much a part of the new verbiage that we speak about whenever we discuss this type of thing.
That's great to hear. And Paul, are all the restaurants open now as well?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, the Suit Free operation is it's called Suit Free Penthouse, and it's on a top floor of a building in Old Town. Right. And it is a part of a commercial development that has choices of eating. That one place, you can go to 12 places and have and sample different types of foods. But just across the road, you know, you have different restaurants. So they are all open. Our signature hotel, which is Sandy Lane, which was closed during COVID, is going to open the beginning of November. And as well as most of the other hotels and restaurants, they're opening up as we sit here. Lots of new businesses, lots of existing restaurants that were closed reopening, as well as these hotels. Of course, the villas, which we represent, have remained open throughout because they are easier to manage and, you know, and individually owned. And as we said, they're part of a rental program. People can come and rent for a week, or they can come and stay for a year. You know, and the owners get, you know, dictate their use of their properties for their own use. I think
one thing that always strikes me about Barbados is the community spirit, and Nancy, you touched on this, and just the remarkable leadership from Prime Minister Mia Mottley as well. I think it comes through in anyone that you talk to that lives on the island or works on the island. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Barbados is a special place. You know, Friday night at Oystons, I mean, this is some of the most fun I've had in years. You know, it's a memorable place to go, and it's a very diverse island, and it's got a very friendly vibe. As I mentioned before, it's very welcoming to people of all stripes, all backgrounds. And, you know, some of my favorite areas, just to reiterate, of course, we spoke about the Bathsheba area, which I enjoy. St. Lawrence Gap area is a wonderful beach there, and some delicious, fabulous restaurants. And yeah, I mean, I think the thing for families, high net worth individuals and families to consider is that it's a place where people follow the rules with respect to mask wearing and social distancing. If I were to move down there, I'd want to, you know, go to a place where people were abiding by the laws and the regulations put in place so that the COVID light environment maintains itself. And indeed, there are a lot of rules around, you know, people being tested. And I understand that people have been extremely complicit with those rules that Mia Motley put in place. And so, you know, that's part of the culture, is following those rules. But yeah, it's a very welcoming place. And if you're considering bringing your family there, you know, that's the type of cultural footprint and echo that you want to look for. There are certainly other places that I've been in the Caribbean where I don't feel is kind of immediately at home. And so I think that's a key factor.
We have a couple more questions that I'm loving the engagement on this conversation. Before we go to some more, Giles, that there's a question for you on if you could give a little bit of background on the special entry program for people who may wish to establish a more permanent position there.
So the welcome stamp is, let's call it, I guess we could call it the appetizer, where, you know, persons come to Barbados, they have 12 months, they sample what they, you know, the island, and thereafter they say, well, how can I stay here more permanently? So Barbados, this isn't something new, has had a special entry permit in place, which allows homeowners and high net worth individuals to take out residency in Barbados for periods of 5 years. And you have to make an investment of 2 million US dollars in real estate or in a business here in Barbados to get that permit. And for persons under the age of 50, that has a renewal process of a 5-year renewal process. And sorry, wait, is it? Yeah, and then after the age of 60, you're able to renew it for an indefinite period of time. So.
And I would say if anyone's got any questions on this after this session, please do reach out to us at Worth, and we'll also share the contact details of Invest Barbados as well, so we can provide and help connect if anyone does have questions on it.
I'll also say, sorry, one more thing on the special entry permit. From a tax perspective, it is also very attractive for high net worth individuals, just because you'll be considered a resident but not domiciled in Barbados, and you will only be taxed on income that is derived from Barbados or that is remitted, income that is remitted back to Barbados. Let's say your Barbados bank account, you will only be taxed on that.
Great, thank you. I want to go to David Rice next, if David is there. Can we unmute David?
I'm unmuted. Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good morning. What was your question, David?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here to see some of my old friends. And I think that what you're doing is extremely important. So I just have a very basic question. I live in San Diego. And the question that I want to know is, what initiatives are you taking to attract those in California? I think everybody knows California has the 5th largest economy in the world, and so many high value residents live in California. So what are we doing in order to get that information out to them about what a special place we have, particularly now with COVID? I think is even more important that many people are looking for alternative places to live during this process. And so that's the question.
Thank you, David. Who wants to take that? Paul, any thoughts?
But first of all, I have to say hello to David, because I know David. When he was talking about saying hello to his old friends, I think he was referring to me, because his one old friend, only one. Well, there are younger friends on board, but David, I hear you. You know, we say in Barbados that everyone works in tourism, and for someone with your name and your previous heading the tourism area, I would say that if you're asking me how and what Barbados is doing to pull people from that part of the world, of the United States, I think that the same challenge applies now as always applied, and that is the distance and the connections to get here from coming out of California, of LA, and that area. But here's the answer. We are getting the private jet kind of people, the high net worth people find a way if they want to get there, especially for longer stays. So the big difference now is that when we were telling people to come to Barbados from California previously for 2 weeks, it was a bit of a sort of effort to get here. But now if they're coming for 2 months or for a year, it all of a sudden that it drops off as an issue. They can easily and are prepared to take that trip. So I think that your point is even more important now than it, because we now have an opportunity that some people may have overlooked, including myself, until I'm prompted to answer it, that the people from many places we felt were far away and didn't have the connectivity, all of a sudden people will make the effort because they're coming to stay for a much longer period of time. So for all involved, I'm sure that there will be a sort of new take up on that suggestion.
And does the private jet, do the private jets come into the same airport, Paul?
Yeah, in fact, not only do they come into the same airport, but there is a special sort of private terminal, which is a jet center. And in fact, I sat this weekend with a gentleman who built an even newer jet center. That is, even he says that it coming through that new jet center is almost like walking straight off the plane onto the island. It is that seamless an experience. Of course, we do still have all the checks for health checks and so on, and that goes without saying. If you don't have all of your tests, you no matter which center you come through, you can't come in. But the quality of reception now has gone up from, I would challenge many places in the world to meet what I saw, because even though we were having dinner, he was taking out his cell phone and walking me through his new center during dinner, and it is absolutely amazing.
I mean, I would agree with that. Even just from coming in on a commercial flight, the speed at which you come in, the welcome that you get, and the proximity to where you need to go, I think is so close, which is one of the huge appeals. And also, the time zone, particularly not on the West Coast, particularly on the East Coast, is the same. So it's fantastic. Thank you for that. Sorry, go on, Giles.
I would say, though, about California is that we are also in an ideal situation where we're 3 hours ahead. So, for persons that are working in California, we welcome them to come here because we allow them to sleep 3 more hours in the morning so that they can then start work a little bit later. And I just also wanted to say just quickly, I just remembered you were talking about infrastructure here and internet. I think it's also good for people to know that when they do come here, not only do we have the infrastructure and the internet, but we also have service providers that can assist you in getting whatever systems you need up and running for you, whether it be hardware, software. A very close friend of mine runs a business called Promotech, and they are able to assist you in providing you with whether it be a new laptop, if your laptop goes down, and the like.
We have, Giles, there's another question, just building on the thing you shared earlier about if you want to continue being in the island beyond 12 months without having to invest 2 million in real estate or business, can you still remain as a resident with a lower cost property? Is that possible?
Currently, it's not under the current regime. Obviously, the government has enacted this legislation very quickly, and it is yet to be seen whether it potentially would be extended. But however, at this point in time, the government is providing 12 months, and we will have to see whether they take the decision to extend it or not. And I think a lot of that depends on what is happening around the world.
Yeah. Okay.
What about,
Go on.
Go ahead. Sorry. Pardon me. Giles, what about the 128-day rule for residency? You know, if you have a lower price property, but you can inhabit the island for 128 days out of the year after the welcome stamp is over, there's some rules around that. Maybe that's useful to people who are interested in buying cheaper properties than 2 million.
Can I come in here?
Yes.
Because we do have those properties. The answer to that anyone can come here and have an extended stay that would not necessarily go up and beyond 6 months. Giles, you may want to just check me on this one. So that they can come here, spend just under 6 months, travel to a nearby island and come back in and get another stamp. And it is not as automatic as having a 12-month stay, but there is, once you go beyond 6 months, that requires the special permission. So you can have extended stays to come here. Now, the idea of working here is, let us remember, you're not working and taking a job from a Barbadian by coming in here to work. You're working remotely from wherever you're based. So there's no threat to Barbados, because literally if you come here and work and you're working remotely, you are spending money here. And whether it's a house for $2 million or a house for $1 million or less, you are going to be given permission to spend time here, just that you would have to leave and come back within a 6-month period. And I say that's subject to correction, but that's my understanding of it.
Giles?
What I would say is that, yeah, a lot of what Paul has said is correct. The issue that will work very well, especially for self-employed persons, to be able to come and go and extend their stay. They will become tax residents if they spend more than 183 days in Barbados. So that would be something, even if they're coming in and out, that's what the legislation states. But we do have a lot of persons that do come in on tourist visas and extend their stay, and they're very much able to enjoy the sun and sand and lifestyle we have here.
I want to go to one more question from the audience. Kevin Murphy. Kevin, if you're there. Hi, Kevin.
Thank you. First of all, I think the visitor visa program is just a terrific idea. And I salute Barbados and Mia Motley for coming up with the concept. I'm just curious. My question was, are you getting any interest from family offices setting up in Barbados? And if there's anything that the government is considered doing to attract family offices?
Thanks, Kevin. Giles, do you want to take that one first?
The government hasn't necessarily specifically had a specific mandate to encourage family offices per se, but what I would say is that family offices, if they wouldn't necessarily have to get a license as an investment advisor here in Barbados, as they would just be providing advice solely to their family office. If we're talking about a multi-family office, we do have a specific investment advisor license here that is issued by our Financial Services Commission. And I actually represent a family office investment advisor here currently in Barbados. Their headquarters in New York, and they have an office here in Barbados. So we have seen certain family offices set up here, where are branches of family offices here. But they have already worked out in their corporate structure the ability to use Barbados for tax incentives, as well as, or lower their tax base, as well as being able to get an investor advisor license here in Barbados?
Thank you for that question, Kevin. Panelists, I know we need to wrap up shortly, but I'd love to ask you, Paul, two questions. What types of businesses do you feel fare well in Barbados? And also, what excites you most about the future for the island?
Okay, thank you. First of all, the types of businesses that I think of are ones related to the business that I'm in. So that what I would say is that the people that have come here, first of all, to work remotely, and who then are starting to get itchy about wanting to do business, they're looking around. So what do they look for? The obvious thing is something related to tourism or development. So that the Apes Hill project is being developed by someone from overseas who set up a business here. And this is a global business that they set up in Barbados 25 years ago. Then they built a magnificent home. And then now they have decided that they wanted to take on something that is a little bit more, how to put it, challenging, but also rewarding. And that's what happens. People convert from just, when they look around, from just holidaying here and doing their remote work from here into looking for opportunities, whether it's developing houses or little communities, to getting involved in tourism directly in the hotel business, or even in some service businesses, restaurants and various other things. So that those are the opportunities, the ones that are related to tourism, which is our #1 industry. And the other question, I'm sorry, remind me the second question.
What excites you most about the future of Barbados?
You know, I always try to say that the future of Barbados is one that, what excites me is that I look at the trend that we are on, so that I look back to where we were 40 years ago and I see where we are today, and all of a sudden we are in a new bubble. We are in a new world where there is opportunities that we never dreamt of that came out of really a major pandemic. So that who would think that if you enter into a situation like this, that you would suddenly spot the bigger opportunities that are created inadvertently. So we are seeing all of these opportunities in the future of Barbados. And I have to touch on one other item, and that is when you talked about, I think that Nancy was talking about education. Someone said something about universities. Well, the sense that I carry with me every time and every day is the fact that Barbados has such an educated society, the people. And the fact that we have a university here, which is a part of the University of the West Indies. And we are going through that dilemma with the university. Now, I happen to chair the university here as well, so that I'm deeply involved right now in trying to determine where the future of that university is going. And we're looking at universities all across the globe to learn and watch and determine what is best for us. We have the infrastructure there. Right now, most of the students are working remotely. So what happens to that infrastructure, and where is that going to end up? So again, the educational system, the university, the future is all part of what Barbados has always represented, that stability and the natural beauty. I wouldn't want to leave my input here without telling you that today is sunny, and that I'm going out to play golf this afternoon, and to say to you that we have 365 days like that right here in Barbados. So that's the best part of living here, apart from everything else, all of the other wonderful things.
Thank you, Paul. And Giles and Nancy, close us out before we end. 3 words on what excites you about Barbados. Nancy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what excites me about it is that it's an elegant location. As the interest and development increases per Paul's closing remarks, you know, I just could never see the island taking on a kind of a tacky resort that I don't know, kind of serves you bad food and watered down alcohol, maybe the latter on occasion, but for the most part, I just find it to be such an elegant location, a safe location, a place where people follow protocols with, undoubtedly that carries over to COVID per Mia Motley's rules around this welcome stamp program and for people who want to stay beyond that. So I hope to visit the island and get a respite from what we've dealt with in the northeast of the US. And I would encourage you to do so as well.
Thank you, Nancy. And Giles, what are you most hopeful and excited about for Barbados's future?
What I'm excited about for the future, what I would say is I'm excited that the government has taken a proactive stance in keeping Barbados competitive and top of mind. What I am excited about is what Sir Paul has stated, that we have so many new people that are being exposed to Barbados through this welcome stamp, and this will always have a multiplier effect, because then they will tell their friends and their friends will tell their friends. And so, and lastly, from my perspective, from a business perspective, is also what I'm excited about is to see the level of investment that is also coming into Barbados at this time, and where that will lead us.
Thank you. Paul, Giles and Nancy, thanks so much for such an insightful conversation on the opportunities surrounding Barbados as an investment and as a lifestyle opportunity. It was incredibly informative. And I, for one, am a huge fan of the community there and the island. And I look forward to visiting it very soon. A special thank you to Invest Barbados, Ken, Leslie and the team for being a great partner and sponsor for this show. And most importantly, thanks to all of you that tuned in today and for your great questions. I hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found it interesting. We did share some links, but on the thank you email, we'll also include some links if you have got any follow-up questions. But we'd love to hear your comments and any other topics you'd like us to cover in the future. You can email us at community@worth.com. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, join us for the next Normal series, where we'll be talking about what the future of space exploration looks like, with special guests Dylan Taylor, Chair and CEO of Voyager Space Holdings, and Kathleen Entwistle, Managing Director of Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management. Please register online at worth.com/events for this and all of our events, as well as check out our work content on worth.com and our newsletters. In the meantime, be well, stay safe, healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.